This video is sponsored by Creality. A little while ago I started constructing project panels, as I call them. So these are sheets of wood, have 3D printed inserts on there, and they store a bunch of tools that I use for the projects on the channel. I really like this system because it's mounted onto monitor arms, so it doesn't take up any space from the work surface itself. And it gave me an idea for this ultimate fabrication desk setup that I've been wanting to build for a long time now. It houses a bunch of really awesome tools like laser cutters, 3D printers, CNC machines, and also 3D scanners. And I'm constructing the panels first so that I can actually ascertain what the ideal size would be for the desk setup itself. In this video, I'd like to focus on the third panel, which will be a measuring system of sorts. So in my content, I often break something apart like a piece of tech, and then I 3D scan the PCB so that we can implement that into the CAD software. And this video is actually sponsored by Creality, so I have their CR Scan Raptor, and they sent over the Otter Lite, which is one of their latest 3D scanners that they've released, but at a lower price point. So it's really neat for on-location stuff because it comes with this like carrying case. It has the grip in there and the 3D scanner itself. And you could connect the 3D scanner with the USB-C port, just like the CR Scan Raptor, to a computer, but it also comes with that grip, which is a battery, and it has like light bridge technology, as they call it. You can connect it to a phone or a tablet, so you can see right here, it's completely wireless to 3D scan something. So if you're completely unfamiliar with what 3D scanning tech is, it's basically this device which lets you convert real-world objects into 3D models that you can import into the CAD software or import into your game engine. And in this case, it's actually one-to-one with the real-world object as well. So if you measure it with a caliper, that measurement is going to be exactly the same as the measurement you do in the CAD software of the object that you've scanned. So it comes with a fair few accessories like this USB-C cable, which you can connect to the computer, a calibration board, and a little turntable, alongside the phone mount, which snaps onto the grip of the device via a magnet. And it also came with this little owl. Also has a lens cleaning cloth in there and this USB-A to USB-C converter and this strap. And the strap connects to the box itself. The box is just really neatly constructed. It's this fabric stuff and everything is stored in there really neatly. They also sent over a bunch of markers with this thing. So what you could do with those, you could 3D print these little marker holders, or you can like stick them onto stuff. But I recommend 3D printing a marker holder. And that way it keeps track of the object a lot better. And so I modified the design of these marker holders a little bit to where there's a magnet in the bottom of it, so you can just stick them onto objects. And especially with larger things, like if you want to scan a car door, for example, to fix something on that, then this will be really useful. Now the 3D scanner that we're actually implementing into the panel is the CR Scan Raptor, and I bought that one with my own money like half a year ago or 3/4 of a year ago, and I've been enjoying it quite a lot since then. So in terms of the panel construction, it was really simple. Took it to the laser cutter and glued it all together, painted it with some lacquer so that it lasts a little bit longer. And I mounted those onto monitor arms, so you have a little bit of versatility in terms of, you know, how you place it, where you place it, and that way you can shine lights underneath it. So that's very important for video, but also gain some interesting angles for the camera. Now the CR Scan Raptor actually needs power, so I'll be implementing the 3-prong power plug solution that I came up with for a desk setup build. And I'm standardizing this over most of the panels that actually require power. So in this way, if you've cable managed some stuff, then you can quickly unplug it and still move the panel without having to reroute the entire cable. So the cables can stick in their spot, but the panels are a little bit more interchangeable in this way. You normally find these 3-prong power plugs in power supplies for computers, but you can just like attach a power strip to this thing, and there'll be multiple devices in this setup which need power, so that's pretty handy. So I'll leave some links in the description down below for the stuff that I've used, but I really do like these because they have a button on the back as well. And this will actually allow us to turn off the entire panel, so that's very useful because I don't necessarily want the 3D scanner to be on all of the time. It seems I'm using it like once every week, and there are some fans in there which if you leave those running for a long time, I'm sure they'll degrade a little bit. We'll be using the Otter Lite here to 3D scan the CR Scan Raptor so that we can properly implement it with a 3D print. So what I really appreciate about this 3D scanner is that it's a really on-the-go type of device. You don't necessarily need markers to scan it either, so the texture and geometry modes keep track of the object really quite nicely. And you can see with a very minimal kit over here, you can create a 3D scan of a relatively small to medium-sized object. But for my personal workflow, it's a lot less hassle to just use the marker mode and connect it directly to the computer. So that's how I'll be using this device from now on. You can see that I put the object in multiple different positions and did multiple 3D scans. After post-processing that, so getting rid of the information that you don't necessarily need, you can combine all of those scans into a single model. And that's very useful if you couldn't scan like the bottom, for example, so that you can still get that information and get a complete 3D model. It doesn't import it into the CAD software in a straight thing, right? You need to kind of adjust it a little bit so that it actually works for your modeling process, so get it aligned to the grid. And so far I haven't actually found a way to subtract a 3D scan from an object that is in shape of 3D, which would be really useful for creating gridfinity stuff. But in my case, I usually just use it to model around. And in this case, it's a really simple integration. It's basically a little box, and it sticks out just enough so that the USB port isn't obstructed by anything, and that cable can run down into the other segment. So when it comes to camera equipment, I don't really care about scratches on my lenses because it doesn't really impact the image quality all too much. But for the 3D scanner over here, I don't want it to, get reduced quality if anything scratches up at the front. So I did go to the laser cutter and cut out some foam padding, and I pushed that into this 3D print. So it's not like touching hard plastic when you store it. So if you're enjoying the video so far, then definitely consider subscribing to the channel, otherwise you might miss any future videos. And if you would like to support me even further, you can check out my Patreon page. I upload all of the designs that I make and also all of the 3D scans that I make. So I'm uploading this as a free post with all of the 3D scans I created with the Otter Lite and the CR Scan Raptor as well, so that you can check it out and try it out in your own CAD software to see if that works out for you. In terms of the cable for the CR Scan Raptor, it would have been really nice if it was a coiled cable. Then it would look like one of those old telephones that you would pick up. But also because it would retract a little bit more. And in this case, I 3D printed this little cap where the cable would go through. And I screwed that into place, but it's just hanging all over the place, and it might actually happen that you snag it somehow and the 3D scanner goes flying out. So probably need to, think of something different for this. I assumed that there was enough room on the inside to store all of the power bricks, but some power bricks are a little bit longer, and this one for the CS Scan Raptor didn't fit at all, so I moved the 3-pump power plug to the other side, and then it sticks out of the bottom a little bit. And we also need some interfacing gear so that we can connect all of the things to a computer. Initially I wanted to connect this to my main Windows rig so that we can record the screen recording straight away, but lately I've been using the MacBook Pro quite a lot to do all of the 3D scans because you can send them really quickly via AirDrop to the iPad Pro, right? And that's really nice. So I have this Razer dock and it's Thunderbolt 4. It supplies enough power to the MacBook as well, so it's immediately charging. That's very useful if you're doing multiple 3D scans, just standing there for like an hour. Sometimes it can drain pretty quickly. Of course, the 3D scanning process makes it super easy to integrate this. But this is more like a cube, so it would have been just as easy to integrate it with a caliper, for example. But just having the model over there and actually being able to see it, it really helps in the design process as well. It slides in from the front, so it takes away quite a lot of the internal space. And then there's some lips at the back of it, so it doesn't shove into the build. The next thing I'd like to integrate is the calibration board. I'm not entirely sure when you need to recalibrate these devices, but I haven't calibrated mine in quite some time. The way that I'm integrating this one is somewhat of a draw, but then specifically for this calibration board, you shove it in and it has little lips at the front over there so it doesn't slide back out. Now in the 3D scanning process you end up with a lot of excess data, like from the ground itself, right? And ideally you want to get rid of that before you go into the processing stage. On the iPad with the Otter Lite, it's really nice because you can use a pencil. I wanted to, do something similar with the CR Scan Raptor, so I still had this Wacom tablet, and I'd like to integrate that on this thing as well so that we can still use a pencil even though we're using a laptop. In this case, we're hiding the Wacom tablet underneath the 3D print so that you don't see the cable sticking out. That mainly has to do with the fact that it's micro USB and not USB-C, so I don't really like that. So this one's somewhat sandwiched together, so we have a top plate and a bottom plate. We just bolt that bottom plate into the 3D print itself, and that's what holds the Wacom tablet in place over there. Then there's also a drawer at the top which can hold the pencil. The next thing is kind of strange, but I use plasticine quite a lot for 3D scanning stuff so that we can model something out in the real world and then it's ergonomic to hold, for example. And when you 3D scan something like this and then import that into the CAD, you get an accurate representation of what the outer shell needs to feel like or look like. And I'd also like to add some more traditional measuring tools like an angle finder, radius gauge set, and a caliper. And this is mostly because we work on like a trust but verified type of system. If we do a 3D scan, import that into the CAD, and then model out the entire project, just to figure out that the 3D scan wasn't accurate, that would be a really big issue. I've never had that before, but I always measure it just to be safe so that I know that everything's going to be okay. I do think I've landed in somewhat of a habit of using 3D printing and laser cutting, and the builds I haven't really innovated in regards to material and that kind of stuff. I have been thinking about trying to create like panels like this out of concrete and just making a mold out of a 3D print. So far the experiments I've done with that haven't really turned out too well. So, stay tuned for that. I hope to improve upon the process a little bit and then try out some new stuff. What I like about this, I immediately see like, okay, the caliper is missing. If it's in a drawer, then it's hidden away, and I only noticed that something is gone until I open that drawer. And that's why prior solutions like toolcarts didn't really work for me. As for how I use it right now, I just plonk a laptop next to it, connect that to the VESA dock, and it is a little bit awkward because the desk setup that it's on right now is really small, so the laptop is in a strange position. But yeah, you grab the 3D scanner, you scan something really quickly. After that, you go to the post-processing side of things. So I use the pencil to get rid of the excess information. And I really enjoyed how this build came out. I'm pretty sure this one's going to stay around for quite a long time as well because it's so modular, right? So if it doesn't work out on the fabrication setup, then we can always take it off and plonk it onto a different setup. And yeah, I hope that this system in that way will last quite a lot longer than a completely integrated solution. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Special thanks to Creality for sending out the Otter Lite. That was really awesome. And hopefully see you in the next one.